Whatever stage you're at with your trading, it's important to stop and gain perspective before planning your next move. Take a break from the charts and join in the discussion with our hosts, Jason Graystone and Akil Stokes, as they share insights, opinions and expertise on all things trading. Grab a coffee, pull up a chair and join the Trader Coffee Break.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Trader Coffee Break. I'm Jason Graystone.
I'm Akil Stokes. Thank you for joining us once again. What are we talking about today, Jason?
Today, I think we put off a little subject. We got recommended that we talk, or we got a query in from someone asking if we could talk about trading strategies and adding trading strategies to a portfolio, right? And when's the right time to do that? And, you know, how would you go about doing that? And because we're trying to keep this whole series in order of, like, if you was a new trader and you went and watched episode 1, we're kind of guiding you along the journey into profitable trading. And I think there was a step missing. And Akil, you brought this up, right?
Yeah, I think before we should talk about adding strategies, which I think is a very good question, and that's a very important stage in developing as a trader and taking it to the next level. But I think the first question that comes before that is like, what is a strategy? How do I get started with my first strategy, right? You got to start with one before you can add. So I think it'll be a cool conversation to talk about that.
And there's a big misconception between, like, what a strategy is and, you know, what a skill is, as we were just saying. And also people get confused with what an edge actually is. And they think, like, well, if I've got a strategy, that's it. I'm successful. So we're going to kind of delve into that, I think, and that'll be a real eye opener for some of you guys. Before we get really stuck in, one thing that I always talk about when it comes to, because an edge is made up of so many things. An edge is what allows you to be profitable for a consistent amount of, for a long period of time, consistently. A strategy is one thing, a skill is one thing. So the way that I always liken it to is chess. You know, if you learn a game of chess, there's tons of strategies that you can use, tons of them. And depending on who you're playing, is how you then start to implement your edge and use your skill to adapt and to manipulate the game in your favor. Because if you can read a chess book, you can read a strategy and you can say, right, if they go here, you go there, if you go here. And that's essentially a strategy. It doesn't mean you're going to win the game of chess. So it's very, very similar in trading, right?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. That's actually the first time I've heard that analogy. It makes perfect sense. And I'm thinking of all types of sports analogies in my head where we go into a game with a strategy and it doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna win, because you have to execute it. And it reminds me of a point in my trading career, because I spent so long looking for strategies. And, you know, even when I came across a strategy that had an edge, I was under the impression that, hey, this strategy is going to work the exact same way for eternity, right? It's never going to change. And something that I began to notice just during my experience of trading is that the markets do change, right? Markets I started back in 2009, right? A dinosaur. Markets are completely different. If you ever take a look through the markets and just look at it, the movement from 2009 to probably about 2012 and 2012 to 2016 or 2018 to now, they're different. And I can tell you that strategies are going to perform different. And, you know, when it comes to the longevity of a trader, it's not going to be your strategy. If you're relying on a strategy for you to make money and be successful, you're going to be in trouble. But the skill of a trader and knowing how to adjust and tweak or change strategies, that's what's going to allow you to really have a very long trading career. And that's something that most traders don't understand until they kind of, you know, unfortunately they go through it and they see that things aren't working the same. They're like, oh crap.
Yeah. And the skill is all about adjusting it to suit you, right? Because if you're playing on if you're a soccer player, you are a good striker, you play up front. If you're a good defender, you play in goal or in the defense. And if you're a good runner, you play in the wings or whatever. And that's about taking the strategy from the coach and then using your skill to make the best of that strategy. And that's kind of the difference between the strategy and the skill, and where the skill comes in. And that depends on who you are as a person. And that's why you have to adapt it to really, you know, use your natural skills and talents and your personality and your lifestyle even. You need to be able to implement that to develop the skill for trading. And if you don't do that, you are essentially trying to play someone else's strategy with the expectation that you should have the skill of someone else as well, when you might not have the skill of someone else, but it doesn't mean you won't be successful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm trying so hard not to take a dig at England when you talked about football and strategy and the recent loss. We're going to stay away from that right now. I can't talk much best as an American supporter. We're not even, whatever. But yeah, it's so true. And I think, I think developing the skill is underrated. I think developing that skill is what helps you to develop that strategy as well, because ideally, you don't necessarily want to just pick any strategy out there, right? There are millions of strategies out there that couldn't be profitable. They're going to take work. You're going to have to put a massive amount of work in there to kind of create that edge. But, there are lots of options out there. I think what's important when finding that strategy, right, is you want to find something that fits you in your situation, right? We had a conversation earlier today, I think in the live trading room, we were talking about, what do you want out of trading? Whenever we talk about it, our main thing is what we want. It's not financial freedom. That's good, but it's freedom of time, right? We want the ability to do what we want when we want to. That's the ultimate goal. And I think your strategy or whatever you choose should be kind of based around
complementary to that.
Yeah, what you ultimately want your life to be. We just spoke with Darren, right? And he said he's got friends he's been teaching and they're sitting there staring at 5-minute charts for like 20 hours a day. It's like, is that really freedom? Like, do you really, it could be a strategy that works, but do you really want to use that?
Yeah. But they might be better at it than you are, right? Because they want to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's everyone's different. And I think that's the main theme, I would say.
Yeah. So the strategy is a rules-based setup in the market. That's a strategy. That's what I'd call the primary trading strategy. And then you've got your skill that basically you take that strategy and it has to resonate with you and people say, well, how do I know it suits me? I call it the triad of personality. It's the one which is the amount of opportunities you get. Some people just have to have a lot of opportunities, particularly at the beginning. Remember, we're going from exchanging time for money in this world where what we're used to in a job to going into not exchanging time for money. There's no time for money correlation. So some people like to feel like they're having a lot of opportunities to just kind of scratch the itch. It's just a need of feeling like you're doing something and you're earning your money, because it's very difficult to transition from clocking in, clocking out to now I don't know, now there's no concept of time. So some people like a lot of opportunities. The second one is your strike rate, how much you're right. And then the other one is your reward to risk profile. And depending on, you might be happy being wrong more than you're right, as long as you've got a massive reward to risk ratio. Some people like being right more than they're wrong. So those are the three things around personality. And that's really, you're using your skill that you're learning and implementing in the markets to use that strategy and your personality and your lifestyle to go and execute that. And then there's the edge, which is really the secondary strategy, the overall strategy. And what makes up an edge, I can think of a ton of things, but people think, well, I've got an edge because I've got a profitable strategy, but that's just not true. There's things like the markets that you trade it on, the time frames you trade it on, the times a day you trade it on. You think of any others, Akil? I can go on and on and on.
You, the person.
Yeah.
You are probably the biggest influencer of your edge, right? A strategy can have an edge if you can't consistently execute that strategy and extract that strategy. Well, you don't really have an edge. So I think, and that's when we get into trading psychology and the stuff that no one cares about until they realize that it's necessary to become a consistently profitable trader. But the biggest factor in the market is going to be you. It's going to be you and your ability. Same thing like a business. I forgot who said this before. I'm not sure if it was it might have been an old Gary V quote, but he was talking about investing and he's looking at giving value to companies, and he valued looking at, I think he said the jockey over the horse, meaning that if you have a business owner that he will bet on a good business owner with a tried and true track record over just a business with good numbers, because he knows that at the end of the day, that business owner, you take your Jeff Bezos or someone like that, he's going to turn something and make it successful, because he is the determining factor in that edge. You can easily take Amazon and give it to someone, some flunky that doesn't know what they're doing, and they can burn it all to the ground. You see that a lot with like generational wealth, where these people come up where their parents and their grandparents had millions, and then they take over the company. They have no idea what they're doing, and the company fails. And so
or they've got no interest in it. Or they've got no interest in it, right? So it's like, So the edge is really you, and the way that you have and develop an edge is by being consistent and consistently trading in a way that allows you to continuously and consistently beat the opponents in the arena of the financial markets. And the way that you do that is you have consistent trade plan rules, strategy rules, timeframes, times a day, emergency procedures, habits, routines, money management systems, risk management systems. And all of this is an all-encompassing plan that forms your edge, that allows you to trade that edge. And as Akil mentioned last week, and many, many times on this show, it's tiny. The edge is tiny. So you have to stay on top of it. You have to keep exploiting that edge, and you have to keep refining it, optimizing it, keeping on top of it. Otherwise you end up in a place where, something isn't working anymore. As Akil said, you go through these kind of 4-year cycles in the markets where you figure out, it's not really working how it was before. If you haven't kept on top of that, you've now got no idea where to start looking. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts, and you have to start again. So that's kind of the edge.
Well, and that's the scariest thing about, I know this is a little bit off topic, but people that, or maybe not even signal services, but people that simply come in and try to follow. Where it's like, I'm just going to come in and I see Jason, he does his live room, he's sharing trade ideas. I'm just going to come in and follow and I'll be successful that way. And it's just like, it's so scary when you see that. And I remember a story from my mentor who was part of like a room, and he was following this guy's signals, and he was making all this money. He was a newer trader at the time, and he was making all this money off this guy's signals. And then one day this guy was like, I'm tired of doing this. I'm going to stop the room, and that's it. And he was like, well, wait a minute. I will give you thousands of dollars if you open it up just for me. And the guy's like, nah, I don't need it. I'm good. Just being reliant on someone else is, you're not in control that way. And there's no foundation to your house. It can crumble at any second. It's scary. But you see it. You see it.
Yeah. So I want to insert a picture here of the pilot that jumps out the plane.
What are you talking about?
I'm going to insert that picture there. Okay, so to kind of wrap up then, let's talk about what people need to focus on and what they do need to have in place in order to be successful in trading. First one, obviously, yes, we've gone about this in the first episode, but you do have to have a strategy. You have to have a trading strategy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You need a strategy. You need the base level skill. The base level skill and the knowledge, and we just dropped a lot of it for you in this episode, but the bigger picture knowledge of what everything is going to take. Kind of, you don't need to have that trading plan or that business plan completed, but at least you need to know what gaps need to be filled until you're ready to trade live. That's very important.
And then you need to get familiar with the strategy, and you need to develop your skill on being able to go and identify that strategy live in the market and trade it spot on, know it out the back of your hand. That's the skill, and being able to do that consistently is the skill that you'll develop over time. When it comes to actually, looking at strategies, you want to really just go and stick with one for the time being, because we're going to go into this next week, but you want to just go, in my opinion, you want to just test one strategy full out before you consider doing another one. Test one strategy, one time frame maybe, and then across multiple markets that you might consider trading it on before thinking about another strategy. But what do you think, Akil?
Yeah, you can't get too far ahead of yourself. One strategy, one or multiple time frames, depending on what that strategy is. But focus on one. And here's the thing. And again, we'll talk about it more next week. But if you can't master one, you can't do two.
Exactly.
Just like understanding yourself and kind of knowing what am I capable of? Do I need to have more action to fulfill that need? Can I be lower time frame, higher time frame? Understanding that, like, you know, you could be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Right? It's so many traders try to do too much.
A Swiss Army knife. Swiss Army knife, average at lots of things, but not good at one thing.
And that will make you a break-even trader.
Yeah, that will. And another reason it's important to stick at one is because when you start to develop your skill and learn a strategy, you naturally develop an edge, and you'll have ideas of what filters and confluences that you want to add to that strategy. As we said in the chess analogy, you're going to have to start adding your own adaptations, and you'll find that will come out as you do your first round of testing, and you'll go, oh, what if I add this? What if I add that? And that is your own edge, your own talent being injected into the strategy. And that's ultimately what will develop your edge. So you don't want to get too far, because you've got to expect that to happen. And you're probably going to go around the first round of testing 2-3 times maybe before you're happy with what you're testing. Then you can go and test it on multiple markets.
That is so true. The ability, it really highlights the skill, the ability to go through the testing and problem solve is probably the biggest thing that a trader can do, meaning that you're going through a strategy, maybe it's not working the way you thought, you're not getting the results you thought, but you're making observations and you can pinpoint like what you need to work on. Like I'm working on a strategy right now, and you know, I've got the experience of doing this for a while, obviously, but I'm going through it and I know exactly what I need to attack. I say, oh, the entry's fine. We need to work on reducing the stop, or, oh, we need to work on some type of filter to identify trend versus consolidation, or, oh, we need to work on, you know, maximum favorable excursion, and how can we get a little bit more with targets to tighten up that risk reward. Once you have that skill, you know, what aspect do you need to work on? Do I need to work on the strike rate? Do I need to work on risk reward? And then you can kind of attack those areas. And not just, it makes the job easier, because as a newer trader, you usually don't know, you know, what needs to be worked on. And that's why you have coaching to help you kind of like figure that out, obviously. But it just, it streamlines the process so much once you have that experience, and once you have that skill to actually dig into what needs to be done. Absolutely.
And when you fix something that's broken, or you fix something to make it better, that's so empowering. Like in your trading, it's such a, that's when you are a trader. You know, you're a trader, because that's essentially what you're going to continue doing for the rest of your trading career. You're going to be tweaking, optimizing, monitoring, projecting. You know, it's all about that. So hopefully that's valuable to you guys. So again, as the message always is on this show, you don't want to be running ahead, adding strategies in. This is exactly why we step back in this to when, you know, we were going to talk about adding strategies, and we went, no, let's do a little bit less. Let's talk about what a strategy is. So do a little bit less, test one strategy, think about how you can develop your skill on that strategy, and then naturally and organically build an edge through testing, through tweaking, through optimizing, getting experience in the markets, building your reticular activating system by identifying patterns. And then you can start worrying about your whole edge development in terms of money management, risk management, habits, and all that kind of stuff. So do less to do more. If you've got any comments on this, or if you've got a certain way of testing or certain way of developing a strategy or developing a skill, I'd love to hear those. Akil will love to hear those as well. And it will help the other guys on this channel. And if you haven't subscribed already, definitely do that. And most people that watch YouTube videos aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you like this channel and you like where we're going with it, definitely subscribe and share it with other people who you think will find it valuable. And until next week, have a great rest of your day and weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for the Trader Coffee Break. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to never miss a live discussion. Follow our hosts on social media, and remember, do nothing to gain perspective on everything. See you next week.